can draw the sun with the stars and the moon. I can draw anything. How about you?
Ready, set, draw!
Hi, I'm Ruth Chan and I write and illustrate children's books. Today I'm going to show you how to paint Mr. Tortoise from the book I illustrated, How Old is Mr. Tortoise? Oh, hi Mr. Tortoise. Would you like to paint with us today? Great! To get started, you'll need a piece of paper, a marker, a paintbrush, some paint, and I'm going to use watercolor paint, and you can use any other paint you have, and some water to clean your paintbrush. Ready, set, draw, or paint. First, we're going to draw the outline for Mr. Tortoise. And we're going to start drawing Mr. Tortoise with a semicircle shape. And I'm going to take my marker, which is also a paintbrush, and I'm going to start drawing the semicircle shape. And you can take your time as you do it. And your semicircle might look different from mine too, because we are all our own different type of artist. So mine's going to look a little bit like this. And I'm going to make a flat bottom like this. And you can tell what part of Mr. Tortoise this is. It looks like the shell, right? So we have this great semicircle ready for his shell. The next thing we're going to draw is Mr. Tortoise's head. And Mr. Tortoise's head is kind of like an oval, but kind of also like a hot dog. So we're going to do a hot dog oval shape. And we're going to start right here at the front of the shell. We're going to make a line that goes up and all the way around. Do you see how it looks like an oval here? And then we're going to join it all the way down. And there's his neck, his little hot dog neck, like that. So now we have the shell and we have Mr. Tortoise's head. The next thing we need is something on the bottom, and those are his feet. And they're going to look like little rectangles like this. So you're going to do one rectangle here. You're going to do another rectangle here. And Mr. Tortoise has 4 legs, so we need 2 more. And we're going to put them in the back. So we're going to do a little L shape that looks like that. And it looks like his other 2 legs are behind the ones in front. Mr. Tortoise also has toes. So we're going to do 4 little semicircles for his toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll do some in the back. And we'll do 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll do some toes here. Now we need Mr. Tortoise's face, right? We have 2 eyes, and his eyes are 2 big circles. And we're going to draw 2 circles up at the top of his head. So there's 1 circle, and there's the other circle. His pupils are 2 dots in the middle of his eyes. So I'm going to put 1 and 2 right there. We have his eyes. Now we need Mr. Tortoise's nose. And those are 2 tiny little nostrils right between his eyes. So you're going to make an imaginary line, and you're going to put 2 little circles right there. 1, 2, like little dots. The next thing we need for Mr. Tortoise is his mouth. And Mr. Tortoise is a happy tortoise, so he's going to smile real big. Make that big, big, big smile like that. Now we have his face. Because Mr. Tortoise is really old, we need to add some wrinkles. So we're going to put some wrinkles on his forehead, and those are just some squiggly lines like this, nice and light. And we're gonna do 2 squiggly lines under his eyes for his wrinkles. And we're gonna do a couple little wrinkles on his mouth, and they're little curves like that. And you can do as many as you want or as few as you want. The next thing we need are some wrinkles on his neck. So we're gonna do some more squiggly lines on his neck like this. We're gonna add some freckles. And his freckles are kind of like little circles. Here and there. They can go on his neck. They can go on his forehead. They can go on his feet. And I'm just adding them all over, and you can put them all over, however many or few as you want. Some of them can be bigger, some of them can be smaller. Up to you. So now we're going to draw a line along the bottom of his shell. And now we're going to draw another line along the bottom of his shell too. Let's draw some vertical lines between those 2 lines we just drew. And finally, we need some segments on his shell. And this is my favorite part because you can make them any shape you want. They can look like a hexagon. They can look like a triangle. They can look like a square. And you're going to fill in the shell with whatever funny shapes you want. I'm just making up any shapes that fill in the space. Here's going to be another triangle. And maybe this one, I'll make another huge triangle like this. And now we have Mr. Tortoise's shell all done. So here's the outline of Mr. Tortoise, and now we're ready to paint. I've pre-mixed a couple paint colors ahead of time, and that's a good thing to do. Here we have green for Mr. Tortoise's skin, and we have a yellow and a brown for his shell. So let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint Mr. Tortoise's head, and that is that green color. I'm using watercolor paint, and you might be using a different kind of paint, and that works great too. You can paint his freckles in, or you can leave them white like I am. Get that nice green color all the way around his eyes, all the way around his mouth, and all the way around his other eye too. You're looking pretty good, Mr. Tortoise. Now don't forget his legs too. Those are also green, so let's paint those legs green. I'm gonna leave his toenails white, but you can paint them in if you'd like. So there's one leg, there's another leg, going around those freckles. And if you missed some spots, you can go back and color them in. Great. Now we have a green Mr. Tortoise. The next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna clean my paintbrush in the water. And now I'm going to paint his shell, which is yellow and brown. So let's start with the yellow. The yellow we're gonna put on that line at the very bottom. That whole part of the bottom of his shell is gonna be yellow. And now we're gonna paint all these gaps between those shapes that we drew yellow. So let's paint all around. And this part's a little tricky. We might have to be a little bit more careful to make sure that we're painting just around the shapes and not in the shapes. We're finishing up the top of his shell. We're gonna go through all these little cracks with more yellow paint. We're gonna do the bottom part here. Lots and lots of yellow. And let's do the last part down here, like that. So now we have all the yellow parts in, and then we have one more color. We have the brown color. So I'm going to clean my paintbrush again in the water, rinse it out real good, and now we're gonna use the brown paint to color in the bottom where we drew those vertical lines. And we're also going to paint all those shapes, that same brown. So let's paint that hexagon. And this part is kind of my favorite part because you're just coloring in shapes. We're getting there. And finally, the last one, this little triangle, we can fill it in. And there we have it. We have Mr. Tortoise. What do you think? Yes, it is. Mr. Tortoise and I would love to see your paintings. Please share them with us using the hashtag #ReadySetDraw. And guess what I have for you? Look at all these candles on this cake. What are you gonna wish for?